message, but it actually cut off. I didn't even hear the whole thing. You said you made the changes, but then I didn't hear. You didn't make all the changes.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi.
Didn't get through either.
Oh. I'm gonna
He's
do.
telling Minerva.
Yeah, it's that Salvation Army lady who wants to. It's the Salvation Army. It's the organization. You thought you already knew. As soon as I get it, I'll email it to you. Because I have to get it sent to me. Because I printed it out. I gave you the printed one. It's better to have it. So it was the documentation piece that you had sent to us. So that clarifies that. Right, right. That was where I can read it without having to say it. This is fantastic. We won. We took first place in the overall competition of the Generation Safety.
I'm just the messenger, Jimmy. I thought you were offside.
Are we good to go? Please stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Gendron? Mr. Gignac?
Here.
Mr. Hoey?
Here.
Mayor Kennedy?
Here.
Ms. Martin?
Here.
Mr. Dakota?
Here.
Ms. Doherty?
Here.
6 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled school committee meeting of Wednesday, September 7th, 2016. Do we have a motion? We have a motion to accept and place on file by Mr. Hoey, second by Mr. Gignac. Discussion. All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Next, we have a permission to enter. Do we have a motion to approve? We have a motion to approve the permission to enter by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Hoey. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Gendron? Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Next, we have one memorial for Yahara Gonzalez, sister of Omira Macano, the Wang School Secretary. Please stand. Next, under motions, we have the first motion of the evening, the only motion of the evening as it turns out, but the first motion of the evening is by Mr. Gignac, requests that the superintendent work with the city DPW to coordinate a POW MIA chair dedication to take place during the Lowell High School football homecoming game. Do we have a second? We have a second by Mr. Hoey. Discussion, Mr. Gignac?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A POW MIA chair was dedicated to the city from an association, Veterans Assisting Veterans. The motion is pretty straightforward. It's just, I think it's a great idea to honor those that have served, and it's a very simple request to work with the city to make sure that happens. Thank you to my colleagues for your support.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may, I would like to respond to that motion right today. Is that we have Mr. Rick Underwood, our Director of Facilities, has already contacted the field director, and everything is in motion, and they'll be working with the city, and it'll take place, as you know, if approved in here, it'll take place on that same day.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion? All opposed? So voted. The next 3 motions are all by Mr. Gendron, who will not be here this evening, and he's requested that all 3 motions be put off until the next meeting. So do we have a motion to delay action on the 3 motions until the next meeting by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Dakota? Discussion. All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Next, under reports of the superintendent, the first 3 reports are reports of progress and don't require a roll call vote, so we'll go through those first. And then all of the remaining reports of the superintendent do require a roll call vote, so we'll do those individually if there's no objection. So the first item under reports of the superintendent is the monthly budget report. Is there any discussion on the monthly budget report? Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just 2 quick questions for the superintendent, or Mr. Frisch. I noticed that the assistant superintendent and deputy superintendent salaries haven't been adjusted since they were approved. Just a reminder to do so. And I think last time I had asked about the budget analyst position, and I'm just curious as to why that was charged and there's no salary there.
Good evening, everyone. The budget analyst is a temporary holding position. So in other words, we have a person, our grant manager. She is paid through indirect cost. We temporarily charge it to the local funds, the budget analyst, and then the grants reimburse that account, so it zeroes out each year. And so we do that on a monthly basis. So you'll see that zeroed out, and then you'll see it reappear, zeroed out, and so on and so forth. This is how we handled it each year for the last couple of years.
Okay. All right, and it's just, it's not to be confused with the internal auditor position?
Correct.
Okay, all right, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just in terms of clarity, I know I had requested several meetings ago an opportunity to have a chart that would allow, an organizational chart that would allow us to see what the previous year's makeup of the business office was and be able to compare it to this current year's. I don't know if that's, if we have an opportunity to pull that together for us, or maybe for the next meeting?
Sure.
Okay,
Can
could I make that in the
certainly-
form of a motion so that it's recorded that and I'd make that a motion, we'd need a second and a vote to request an organizational chart of the school business office? Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, seconded by Mr. Hoy. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next item is any further discussion on the item 10? If not, we'll move on to item 11, which is the STEM curriculum at Lowell High School, and I believe there's a PowerPoint presentation to go along with this report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask our coordinator for science and STEM to give us the presentation.
Martha Cohn, I'm the Science and Social Studies Coordinator, Pre-K-12 for Lowell Public Schools. My colleague Paula Ransfield is the STEM Support Specialist. So we'd like to share some of the updates that have been happening just for this actually upcoming school year. One is to share a vision that is guiding our work, a grade K-12 continuum that sparks curiosity in the elementary grades, fosters critical thinking and problem solving in middle school, and affords opportunities for high school students to pursue STEM careers. Oh, excuse me. So we're looking at this as a broad spectrum. We're starting with our elementary schools. We want to build that strong base so that we have something to build upon. We're working with science and engineering activities in the K-4, and my colleague will share some of those with you. We're developing the science and engineering skills and practices as outlined by the new standards, and we've implemented new units in our grades 5 through 8 throughout the district and in our middle schools, and we've been providing professional development for teachers to use those two new units. And we want to inspire and encourage our science and engineering engagement at the high school level so that we're offering high-level, rigorous courses that will bring those students in, prepare them for real-world challenges.
Good evening. In our kindergarten classrooms, we were awarded a grant, and all the units that we're doing in kindergarten now are all center-based and with a strong STEM focus. So all of the text that they're reading, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, is all STEM-based. We've made that switch. This is an example. We all know about this book about the three little pigs. However, underneath it, it says an architectural tale. In this book, you won't see that stone house with the real smart pig at the end. You'll see Frank Lloyd Wright's Waterfall House. You'll also see these blueprints, and that's the expectation of our kindergarten students, that they are presented with a problem, and they could, at the end of this book, be presented with the problem with, can you create that house to help these pigs? What would the straw house look like? How could you reinforce that? And they go to work, and they're very creative, and through this grant, that's happening in our kindergarten classrooms. In 1 through 4, the first trimester, what their students are engaged in 3 engineering challenges. So they're presented with a problem, given materials, and it's very open and it's inquiry-based, and they go at it and they come up with solutions. All the solutions are different and should be. There are some criteria that we give them to hold a load of 50 pennies or whatever it is, but the creativity, they can do anything they want while they're applying science practices and engineering skills. In grade 5 through 8 this year, the classrooms are abuzz. We have just implemented 2 new courses per classroom, and they're aligned to the new revised science and engineering standards, which were just finalized last year. This revamped curriculum incorporates new instructional practices by teachers, so students appreciate scientific innovation, and they're learning scientific and engineering concepts, which deepens their ability to think and investigate. Critical thinking is in the forefront of all that we're doing, all of our STEM focuses. Students are now actively participating in scientific practices. They'll be keeping personal scientific notebooks, collecting evidence, and presenting and critiquing data, all based on their experience. There's a lot of communication and talking in those classrooms and figuring things out. We call it now the no-tell zone. The students are kind of constructing their knowledge, and the teachers are facilitating.
So as I think you were witness to, most of you last year, we have STEM clubs at all our middle schools continuing this year. Those allow our students to do independent research, to provide project-based for their science fair, the district science fair, and I think some of you were able to meet some of our students last year. That will be continuing again this year, and we're also including more of the high school students in this. I'll talk about that in a little bit with funding. And also Idea Camp, which is our STEM-based summer program. We had an increase of 20% this year. Excuse me. At the high school level, we're happy to say that Project Lead the Way was introduced and is being implemented at the high school in grades 10 through 12. We have 2 programs, Introduction to Engineering Design and Principles of Engineering. We have 2 teachers, Megan Vilkins and Doug Nickers, that went to Project Lead the Way training. It was a 2-week boot camp at WPI for them to be the facilitators of this program. It's a very rigorous, challenging, problem-based program. We are also building upon the fact that we have Project Lead the Way in 7th and 8th grade at the Butler School. Those teachers also attended WPI for their training. It's in the 5th grade at the Butler and also 3rd and 4th grade at the STEM Academy. So we have this nice continuum that we're building with this Project Lead the Way. Our plan is to offer an engineering course for incoming freshmen for the school year next year of 17 and 18 that will continue to build this engineering continuum for our students all the way through into the high school. So all of these programs are funded by a variety of different grants. We have a Title IIB grant. It was $199,000 that we were just awarded, and that's to provide professional development for our teachers to kind of facilitate this new way of teaching and learning. It is, we're developing courses with Fitchburg. Right now, Odyssey of Math is happening. We have chemistry in the garden and engineering in the garden for the summer. All of the programs are focused on our STEM learning gardens, as it gives an innovative way for teachers to learn the content. It's hands-on, and it allows us to use the gardens for environmental studies and to get the students outside and seeing that science happens inside and outside a classroom. The Lindy Foundation gave us a 2-year grant. This is our 2nd year to bring Project Lead the Way into our schools. Verizon Foundation awarded us $20,000 to start a makerspace at the Bartlett School, and we're starting that process right now, looking at what we want for materials. Verizon Foundation also donated $10,000 for Idea Camp for this upcoming summer for scholarships. Kronos is supplying Kids Invent kits. 8 different classrooms will receive an after-school program where students will actually, in grades 4 and 5, work with inventing some kind of challenge. They put out a challenge, and then Kronos will come out and be the judges and offer support. And Massachusetts Science and Engineering Fair is very pleased with how our program in middle school has gone, so they've offered some financial support to bring it into the high school and freshman academy, so we can bring that forward as well. Aside from that, we have a lot of other support that is coming in. We were able to hire a math resource makerspace project developer. This person will work with the Bartlett School to help get their space up and running. He'll also offer some support at the high school. We'd like this person to make those connections between K to 12 and how makerspaces can support a teacher, support the classroom, and kind of work along with our curriculum so that they align. Again, the Bartlett Makerspace is an exciting way for us to bring this to our students for K to 8. We have content literacy teachers that are in every one of our elementary schools, and they're key teachers that bring activities and extensions. They do outreach to bring Museum of Science to the classrooms. They go take the kids to the aquarium so that they have those experiences that add to what's already happening in the classroom. Massachusetts General Hospital has reached out to us to provide an internship for 12 of our high school students to work in the cell biology lab down there, along with Genzyme and Biogen. That will be a paid internship that will happen next summer for 12 lucky students. Idea Camp will come up again this year. We're looking to add to our 11 programs that we already have in existence. UMass Lowell Work Study, we were awarded to be a site for the work study. We've currently hired 4 students that are working to support classrooms in science and math. Right now, they're working at the Bartlett School. These students come to us from, they have engineering background, they're freshmen, mostly freshmen with engineering backgrounds, willing to work with our students to encourage them to participate in STEM. So it's really exciting to have them as mentors and role models. Middle school STEM club mentoring, we are working with the Mass State Science and Engineering Fair, provides us a liaison that works with our middle school advisors to align mentors from MACOM, Aptima, TRC, an environmental company here in Lowell, and they kind of work out the schedule for them to come in and volunteer in the schools, make sure that teachers have the support they need, and it's a great resource for our students to see. Mill City Grows continues to be a great partner of ours. We're up to 12 learning gardens, 7 middle schools, and 5 of the elementary. And if you had a chance to see any of them, they're beautiful. And lastly, and probably the most exciting piece is that we have a STEM advisory board. Our first meeting will be October 11th, sorry. We have community partners from MITRE, MACOM, Lowell Makes, Merrimack Valley Robotics, along with some staffing that will work together to focus how we can develop students to be career ready in the area of STEM. Questions?
Does anybody have any questions on item 11? Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, through you, Your Honor. One of my questions is, when you talk about the elementary schools, I'm wondering, do we have science teachers in the elementary schools now? Or how are we integrating the science and engineering activities? Is that something the teachers are doing in class?
So it's the teachers doing in the classroom, and Paula has worked very diligently, and every teacher has been through at least 2 days of professional development to learn how to implement these new units. So the expectation is it's done in the classroom. We have a lot of literacy and math connections that are integrated into the unit, and we realize they have a full plate, but we're trying to find ways that they can use some of their ELA and math time to make those connections for the students.
Great, thank you. And then one other question regarding the Idea Camp. I think it's fantastic. You had 20% increase in participation. How many kids generally, I mean, I don't know if you know it at the top of your head,
Oh, I
and
do.
how long is the program?
So we had 183 seats this year that were filled. We run 11 different programs. They run 5 days a week. We run things from architect studio, crime science, flight school. We have Sea Perch Robotics, where the students actually built a robot and took him to the Merrimack and ran them under the water. We do your traditional, if you want to call that, robotics with Legos. We had a new program called Gut Dirt. It's our second year, actually, and it was held at the Stockcloser School, and the kids actually designed an irrigation system to water all the beds. But they also made pickles, they learned about composting, and so they took that environmental side. And those are from the creativity of the teachers that really want to bring that experience to the students that they can't always get at the classroom.
That's fantastic. I remember years ago when we used to go to UMass Lowell for
Right.
those camps.
And so we had those same workshops that were at UMass Lowell are now part of Lowell Public Schools, and we've recalled them to Idea Camp. But Doug Prime, who ran them over at UMass Lowell, came to work with us in Lowell. We trained teachers in Lowell, because a lot of times those teachers at UMass were from Westford or Chelmsford, and we wanted it to be a Lowell base. We also hire UMass U-Teach students to work as interns along with the teachers, so they also get to learn the project-based piece of it as well.
And you said it's 5 days a week. How long? A month in the summer? or-
It's 3 weeks, so we run 3 weeks.
3 weeks,
And so there's sometimes 5 or 6 happening at the same time, and we usually hold it at the Butler School.
And there's no fee for the Lowell students?
We sometimes offer a $40 registration fee just to have some kind of, party in the game. But we do offer scholarships with the help of Kronos and Maycom and different companies that do provide that. The Amelia Peabody Foundation donated money this year for this past summer.
And one last question, sorry. About the high school, that you're going to be having a new program for freshmen. You said you mentioned an engineering course for freshmen. So would that be considered a math or science requirement? Or
There's
is that
actually
an
a science, technology, engineering MCAS test that can go along with that type of course. So we're looking to work with the high school to bring that forward for the freshmen for next year.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any further questions? Ms. Martin?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation, certainly, and for all the work that you've been doing and all the work throughout the district that's been happening. I have to say, the idea, I love the storybook, The Three Pigs. That is a phenomenal way, and it's exactly what we've talked about, that STEM doesn't necessarily have to be a discrete add-on, that the kind of crossover activities that happen across literacy, across all the STEM disciplines, that's really the secret, having that kind of comprehensive approach that students get the information in a variety of ways and then can kind of, scaffold it all together for their learning. I did have one quick question specifically at the high school, and it's only because I have a couple colleagues who've been part of it. But I do know that there is a Green Jobs initiative that's happening there, that in addition to this new engineering course for the freshmen, that is bringing together, I think, Middlesex Community College, the staff at the high school, along with some other different experts who are coming in, helping the students investigate and get exposure to a variety of green jobs, whether it's about solar, whether it's about weatherization and conservation. And I only know because CTI's program has been part of that planning. But I do think between those programs and the other activities that are going on, it really does show how these activities are truly being driven throughout the curriculum, which again, ultimately is the way our students will best benefit from it. Thank you very much for all you've done.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to commend the great work that you did over the summertime. I was able to go to the final day that they were presenting all of their works at the Butler School. I was very impressed with what they did and how excited they still were. And here they were at the middle of summertime, and it was hot that day, as the whole summer was, but they were still just so engaged, and the works that they had on display were fabulous. I just wanted to commend the work that you obviously did with them and how they were just really fantastic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 12, which is the 2016-2017 Opiate Abuse Prevention and Awareness Education. Is there any discussion on that report from the superintendent, Mr. Gignac?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, thank you, Ms. Deputy Superintendent Durkin, for providing this report. I know you also provided it to the city's opiate task force, which I think is very helpful. From reading this and being involved in this process for a number of years, I personally wasn't overly impressed with the UMass Lowell feasibility study. I think that the district and city and its partners have done quite a bit of work to address this, and I know that there was quite a bit of grant monies put towards this feasibility study as a requirement. But I wasn't overly impressed with what the document actually provided us. I think the district itself really wrote the document, provided all the information, they just compiled it. But it's good that I think we're going in the right direction as far as the needs. The curriculum is being developed, and it's definitely moving in the right direction. I just think, and I know, Deputy Superintendent, you feel the same way, that we're just, it seems like it's taking a long time to get there. And unfortunately, it's every kid that leaves the school system and then goes on and struggles with addiction. I feel that we did them a disservice by not educating them sooner. And a few years ago, we kicked off a whole month of different activities, and it reminded me of the book that we just saw, because it was small things at the elementary level that wasn't necessarily a picture of pills or heroin, but it was talking about making the right decisions. And I thought that was really, really powerful. And I know that's the focus moving forward as well, but I think there should be just this real focused effort to be doing this consistently at this time, because it's really something that is affecting this community. And I know there's the great partnerships that the school system has, and one of them's with the district attorney. And I think that's really powerful, because it's taking the kids that are having a parent overdose or a relative overdose in the home, taking them out of that home because they have to go to school the next day, and giving those kids the support services that they need to get through the process. And I just think as a school system, we should be doing a little bit more to provide that education. I know there's only so much time in the day, but anything we can do to help these kids realize that just the slightest mistake can end their lives. And so I do appreciate the report and all the work that the school department and its partners have done. I just wasn't overly impressed with the feasibility study.
Yes, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you. I acknowledge that as well. I want to let you know that what you have as far as the feasibility study is just the excerpt on the substance abuse portion.
Yeah.
The study results are quite dense. They're 100 and some odd pages. That being said, we still felt, Assistant Superintendent Desmond and myself, when we reviewed it, when we received it on September 6th, that we had a lot of questions.
Yeah.
That it left for us some wonderings. And so to that, we are meeting with the university again tomorrow to find out what additionally they can do to provide us with some, maybe perhaps going back out to the schools to do some more investigation,
Right.
and then provide us with very specific recommendations about going forward, because that's what we're looking at right now. We know what we have school to school,
Right.
but we need the specific recommendations. So we are working on that, and we're meeting tomorrow. Additionally, so there'll be, just so that everyone's aware, we know that this isn't enough. But we're pleased with the collaboration with the Healthy Futures program to be able to add 2 additional lessons at every 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, specifically on substance abuse. And the other, so I included that in there as well for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we did get confirmation that the theater troupe will, the Improbable Players has agreed to help support and fund us again this year. And so we'll be setting that up in the schools as well. But we view this as only the beginning. And we're committed to making sure that more is done for students across the board.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Gignac, anything else? Okay, any further discussion on this matter? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to accept items 10, 11, and 12 as reports of progress. We have a motion by Ms. Martin to that effect, seconded by Mr. Dakota. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Item 13 is the superintendent's report on bullying prevention and intervention with plan revisions for 2016, 2017. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Dakota. Discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Mr. Gendron? Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Next is a request for home education. Do we have a motion to approve the request? We have a motion by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Hoey. Discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Mr. Gendron? Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Item 15 is the approval of an educational research request. We have a motion to approve. Motion approved by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Ms. Martin. Discussion on the motion. Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if we could, if the Assistant Superintendent could share with us any of the background material on this, the survey that's mentioned here, and then the, I did have some questions about how kind of it's gone through its process, but
I'm going to defer to the superintendent on this because he has more information.
Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you be more specific as to what you want exactly? Because
I'd
I
like to
think
see the survey instrument that they're
you
going to be
wanna see the
using.
survey that, okay.
So that, yeah, that would be a great
Specific,
first
yeah.
step.
You can bring
I'd
that
also
up.
be curious about the process that this went through. I see number of approvals where it
Yeah,
was
because
approved to start. Has it begun already?
No, it hasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, this person had to get the approval of the two people who are in charge of that area, the math, and also the head of school. And then the process goes on to come to us to figure out whether we want to recommend to the school committee to approve it or not.
Okay.
And that's usually, we have Mr. Paul Schlickman who would go over the process to make sure that they're all abide with, by school committee policies. And he would ask, he's the person who would normally ask the questions as to what do you do with the data, the privacy issues, and so forth. And if you want to see the survey itself, we can bring that as well.
That would be great. I'd love to see the survey. I'd also like to get confirmation in terms of publication. One of the critical things that's always been part of our package in the past has been a requirement that prior to publication, if Lowell is going to be identified, that would be informed of that.
Sure.
So that was, that doesn't appear to be part of the review. And then, again, generally, I don't know when it changed that the subcommittee doesn't have an opportunity to review these and that we don't have an opportunity to actually meet the researchers. I've always found it really interesting and helpful to have the actual researcher take the time to come to present and be able to kind of explain the background of what led them to the research and kind of what it's grounded in. It's very exciting. Polynomial functions are a very exciting thing, but it's usually very helpful to have the researcher be able to tell us how they came to their questions and what they're truly trying to get out of it. So without anyone to talk about it, we don't really get that opportunity. So I'd be voting present, but as we move forward, I mean, the rest of the body may feel differently. And if we could get a copy of the survey instrument and any other backup information, that would really be very helpful.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll take a note
Any
of
further
that.
discussion on item 15? Roll call.
Mr. Gendron? Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Present.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
5 yeas, 1 absent, 1 present, approved.
The next item is a vote to accept a grant award in the amount of $2,000 to the bridge program. Do we have a motion to approve by Mr. Hoey, second by Mr. Gignac? Discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Mr. Gendron? Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Next, we have 2 transfers that require a roll call vote. Do we have a motion to approve both transfers? A motion to approve both transfers by Mr. Dakota, seconded by Ms. Doherty. Discussion on the motion? Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just think it would be helpful for Mr. Frisch to go through what these transfers actually mean.
Good evening again. It's my pleasure to provide more background on this item. It is customary at year-end to make transfers to correct accounts. The account was, transfer was made August 17th. We want to correct that transfer. So what we want to do is undo that transfer, and then what was presented in the packet today, approve that as the second motion. So the first motion undone. The first one, August 17th, expenditure transfer number 1. And then simply what was presented today in this meeting, we approve that as the second request.
If you could just tell us why we're undoing it.
Yeah, the from and the to was switched. And so
Just
I'm
a-
used to debits and credits, and at the city, they use from and to.
Yeah, okay.
So I simply had
Just a
the,
clerical error.
yeah, I had it switched. And so we need to undo that and then correct it with the proper entry.
For FY16.
This is for FY16, that is correct.
Okay.
And checked with the city auditor, and we're both in agreement to make this entry. And this will correct the salary accounts and the other accounts affected.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? So do we have a motion to approve?
Yes.
Right, okay, roll call.
Mr. Gendron? Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
The next item is classification of a position.
Need to do the second, or did we do both at once?
You know, both of one, it's really just a
I've heard the explanation, I know what it is, thank you, I appreciate it, I'm sorry. I just thought we had to do them separately.
We have a motion approved on the classification. Motion approved by Mr. Hoey. Yes. By Ms. Martin.
Again, could we ask for a little background about the thought process behind this?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this person is currently working for us as a young man who's, he was there before I came, so he must have been hired recently before I came, and had started out mostly like, oh, again? Sorry. Better? Good. Thank you. Thank you. So he's been trained. A lot of training has been put into it and has grown tremendously in his job. And as anybody who does really well, they keep adding on and adding on and adding on to their responsibilities. He is currently, if you come to our office, is the person who sits at the counter for the technology. So he has grown from simply coordinating the calls that come from the schools to actually the person that does as well for us all the support in central office across the street as well. They would come to him, and I understand some of the school committee members as well, when they needed help in technology, they came there. So he's been doing a lot more than what his initial hiring was, and frankly, when you do that, it's quite dangerous because you're training people better and better and better, only to prepare them from somebody who's come in and is ready to promote them to that next level. I'm asking for a reclassification to a job that he is really doing now, and not the one he was hired for, which is he's currently really a full tech support for all central office, as well as coordinating the help desk, because all the calls that come in from all the schools, they would come into central office, and he would be the person to coordinate, or if it's an emergency, he would call in the technicians, and we have 3 full-timers, and as you know, we have several half-timers, then coordinate them to go to the schools and make sure that they do take care of the problem. So it's just, to me, it's really reclassifying a job to what it really is now, and not at the time that he was hired a couple of years ago, and frankly, to protect our investment. Especially it happens a lot in technology. You hire young people, and you put a lot of investment in training them and making sure that they become very knowledgeable, and then if you don't bring them up to what they really ought to be, you just invested for your neighbor to take them away from you.
Any further discussion, Mr. Hoey?
When you say neighbor, you mean Chensit?
I
Okay.
won't name anybody.
Well, I
on the
just want to
district.
let my colleagues know that this gentleman has helped me quite a bit, and he's a very helpful person, full of ambition, and he's a nice person, so I think he deserves that raise, and hopefully we can keep him here.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Ms. Martin?
Do we know what the differential is?
the difference between where he is now and where he is
Yes.
going? Yes. He's currently earning a little bit over 47, and we'll ask for that salary 55, which is very comparable to. It's still lower than any one of our tech support who are there, the 3 full-timers.
And are there any specifics within the qualifications that have changed? Licensures, I know you mentioned a lot of training and whatnot that had happened. Is there anything in there?
He's continuously working on his, whatever we ask him to learn, like whether it's an Apple license or a Windows license or anything, he takes care of all of our hardware. I do not have all the specifics of the license that they have asked him. I'm sure we have them on record.
I'm just, because within your qualification segment, that would be where you'd want to put any requirements.
This is what I had asked them to do is to tell me, to prepare for me a list of the job description and that he's actually doing now and what we want them to do and the qualifications that are required now. I'm not really sure how they hired him initially because he was just very much entry level. So they may not even have had some very rigid requirements at that time.
Right. But with the higher level that we now want to move towards, it would be great to have that included.
Okay.
As a way to differentiate between what the position was before and now that it's moving to this manager level. Again, he's been extremely helpful and I absolutely am in favor of investing in our people and bringing them forward with us. So I support the move. It's just some of the background information would be, again, helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was hoping when we received this to find like the existing job description compared with the proposed job description, to really see if the workload has increased, as much as we're proposing to increase the salary. And I completely understand that we want to retain good, high-quality staff, but an increase of nearly 20% is quite a big jump. And I think we want to retain high-quality educators. We want to retain high-quality staff across the board. And if we were to come out and give 20% increases to everyone that went over and above, we wouldn't be able to function. I do understand his important role here. I think perhaps moving him into a different position that currently exists and changing it a little bit, because even the job goal of this job description is the same job goal as the help desk coordinator, to track and manage calls and tickets received by the help desk. So it's not, it doesn't say that he's doing all this other stuff. I mean, some of the responsibilities have increased, you can tell, but the overall goal seems to be the same. And I just, I wish we had this conversation at another time. I just can't see myself supporting such a large increase for one position. I mean, we try to hire high-level people all the time and negotiate increases, and I don't think anybody else in the district is going to see a 20% increase. So it's just difficult to set that precedent.
Any further discussion? Mr. Dakota? No further discussion? Roll call. Ms. Doherty, I'm sorry.
I was just going to make a recommendation. I wonder if we could delay this and get more information. I'd like to see the original job description too, because I think that, especially the point my colleague makes about, the goal of the job being the same as the lower level role. And on the one hand, I can see a 20% increase does seem really big, but the job description, 5 to 10 years of experience in this industry at 55 seems reasonable. I don't think we're, offering a huge amount of money here, but I think if we had more information, maybe people would be more comfortable with it. I don't know how if we could get the original job description and a job description that shows, yes, the coordinator role and the manager role are vastly different in these specific areas. And then I think that protects us going forward as well. If the person leaves the position or when we are ever actually posting it again, we've got a very clearly defined description of what the requirements and the expectations are for the role.
Did you want to make a motion to delay until the next meeting?
I think, I mean, I would be, I mean, I'd like to support it, but I feel like I need more information too. The superintendent has his hand up.
Superintendent?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would love to give you more information, but if it isn't there, I can't create it for you, because I'm telling you, this person was hired as a very entry level at that time, and I don't think they really built it up on a job description. It was pretty much hired and grew up into the job, take care of this, take care of that, take care of that, and as and he's gotten more and more and more skills to do that. We can delay it if you want, but I think the most of the information that is really pertinent to what we're trying to do, and this person is already doing this job. It isn't a matter of that we're giving him an increase just like that. We would not. It's a matter of normalizing and recognizing a person's value and salary, not because this person, you hired them as an entry level. This happens all the time in technology because they come in young with very minimal skills and they get to learn, and then they grow into the job, and you have to keep up with that if you want to protect your investment. I believe that, yeah, we can delay if you'd like, but by the time we get around it and trying to figure out what was the initial intent when they hired him, what they do, and what is due. We can try to figure it out, but it might be too late.
I'm just,
Yeah,
I want
for
to make
this
sure I understand.
person,
So
yeah.
you're saying there was no other job description?
I don't believe that they had a formal job description for coordinator at the time, because I asked several times, what is a coordinator? Because I see him doing everything. I see him doing the full job of a tech support, except he does it in central office, and I see him doing the coordination of the management of the help desk by dispatching people everywhere, going there and there to take care of problems. So that's why it was brought up to my attention, because I felt exactly the same. I don't see that this person is actually doing only the coordination of phone calls like a receptionist. I went myself with several times calling him up to take care of a few things. So I felt like we did have an anomaly there, and then when I came to find out that we're in danger of losing our own investment, I said, we really need to normalize cases like that. And by the way, if you look at the technology department, you will find out a lot of people go through your budget. We have a lot to do to clean up the job descriptions, because this happened to several of them. They grow into the job, they do more and more and more, and they kind of deviate from what they were doing 2 years ago, and the paperwork doesn't catch up with them, their job description. Our system changed as well. You might have somebody who was doing media, is strictly listed as media and still continues as listed media, but the requirements today of our system are so much more sophisticated. 2 years later, they may be doing very advanced networking management. So yes, we should be doing a better job in tracking those and updating their job descriptions, but I don't think it was done the last 2 or 3 years. So when I constantly have to ask myself, what are you doing exactly? Because I have you listed as a separate thing, but it was like 3 years old. And then I get the right information of what they're doing exactly in every role.
Mr. Hardy, if you get anything further? So the motion on the floor is to approve, so a motion to delay would be a substitute motion to that motion. Do you want to make that motion, or is?
I would make that as a substitute motion to see if we can get any more information about it.
Motion to delay until the next meeting. Do we have a second to the substitute motion? Seconded by Mr. Gignac. On the substitute motion, Ms. Martin.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. I think what's most encouraging about this is that you've described the exact process that we're in. So that's great. We're halfway home. Because I think what we're asking for is for you to take what is an outdated information from 3 years ago, say, because, obviously, help desk coordinator position exists. It's on paper. It's something that that we can pull up, because we can't hire someone if there's not a job description as part of the posting. So whether it's 3 years old or 5 years old, it exists. We have the opportunity now to update it so that it will reflect what is the true position, the new manager position, that will allow us to see a transition from what it was 4 years ago to what you believe it is now. So it's a perfect opportunity. This is part of the process I know that you're citing we need to do to update all of our job descriptions and make sure they align with the actual work that's happening. So I think that's perfect. One of the key things that I think we can use and that we can find in this opportunity is a chance to be specific and provide real information about what the help desk manager, what the goal is. If it is the same goal as it was before, perhaps that's not appropriate. Perhaps we should work on a higher level goal now that this person is no longer coordinating, but where they are in fact managing based on this job description. Qualifications. There perhaps are more better, stronger, faster qualifications that we require now that this person has gone to the trouble of actually acquiring, which now allows them to move to this level of manager from the previous coordinator. So a lot of this motion has already happened. It's just a matter of us being able to legitimately document it in an appropriate HR, function so that an auditor, so that anyone can come in and say, oh, I can follow the paper trail that says, this is what the position was, the superintendent made a recommendation and the school committee approved a change. This is the rationale behind that change. So I think that, again, as you say, perhaps that, the original job description that he came in on, I absolutely believe that it doesn't describe what this individual is doing today. Now's our chance, if we're going to even consider changing pay grade, we need to do all the other homework that allows us to make that jump. So I think that if we could delay it and give you and the team an opportunity to develop that information, be able to bring it back to us, perhaps we'll have an opportunity to make this happen.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the substitute motion to delay until the next meeting? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Gendron? Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
No.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
No.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
4 yeas, 2 nays, 1 absent, approved.
The next item is a vote to approve the title change for the school business administrator. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Mr. Dakota, seconded by Ms. Martin. Discussion on the motion? Ms. Martin.
Just a quick, I guess, history question. My understanding was that we had already changed the title, that we had received backup information that at the time we didn't go forward with the chief finance officer because there was the recommendation that that wasn't an accepted job, just a job title, either within the city or DESE. I'm not sure where the kibosh came from, so that we move forward with school business officer as the title. Is that accurate?
No, in terms of, to get you back to the history, no, almost.
I come close sometimes.
At the time, the city solicitor said that the CFO, not the state, the city solicitors said that the CFO was not, even though we had accepted it as a position to be publicized, she wanted to have a separate school committee vote for it as a contract title. So we then we did not have the time for that because the school committee had already approved everything else. And we opted to go for the state title, which is the school business administrator. Regardless of what you locally call the person, the state always refers to them. The only mandated job is a school business administrator. Thus, it allowed us, because it was mandated by the state, it allowed us not to have to wait again or call a special meeting just for that. So we decided to go for that. And again, in terms of giving you back the history, when we were doing the discussion on the job description for that, and the question of assistant superintendent came up, the reason that I had at the time for the job search requested this from the school committee to waive that as a requirement, because I knew that the only way for us to enlarge the field of search and trying to get as many candidates, qualified candidates as we can, would be a good thing to remove it, because there are many qualified people, highly qualified business managers who may not necessarily have decided to go for the assistant superintendent license. And I remember at the time, it was with the previous school committee, having explained myself to say that we're fine if if a candidate would present himself or herself, and that candidate happens to have the license, we have no problem. We can award them that. But in the absence of the license, the state really doesn't want you to use that title because they want to preserve that system. So since then, when we hired our current school business administrator coming from out of state, obviously did not have the license, but since then he has been able to acquire the license from the state, and by transferring the whatever get and pass the test, get whatever is required, and there is the MTEL test that all of us have to take, and has since acquired. So to me, it's just a title change to give the person the recognition of his license with the state. Doesn't really change anything else. No job description change, no salary change, no benefit change, nothing else. Thank you.
So in the end, does the contract say CFO or does it say school business officer?
Sorry, the current contract says a school business administrator.
Okay. So when we approve a job title, we're changing the title, we're not changing the title from chief finance officer. We're changing it from school business administrator. I don't forget what the A was.
We will be adding it to school business administrator because the title of school business administrator is the title that the state will always recognize these people. So it will be just as it was before, assistant superintendent, but recognized by the state.
It's just that it was never chief financial officer.
Yeah, it had
So
never
that's
happened.
an inconsistency in the thing, which I was confused by because I had thought we had made the change to school
I'm
business
sorry.
officer.
Yeah, that's.
And I appreciate the history lesson because I was a big fan of the assistant superintendent licensure. So I'm very pleased we've made it to that point. And congratulations in 6 months in achieving it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call. Mr. Hoy.
Thank you. If it doesn't give him anything, it doesn't give him no new powers.
No.
Nothing at all. We're just changing his title. Like, I didn't hire him. I think you were the one that recommended him. We all love him. We gave him as much love as we can since I've been here. I don't know the rush to make him your deputy assistant because, he does have a 3-year contract. You don't. You might be out of here and he might be taking over because he's moving real fast for me. But I do appreciate him. I'm glad he bought a house in Lowell. I know he did great with our budget, but I don't see the rush in giving him that title right now. That's all. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Do you need more love? Does this have to be-
No, I'm good. I still love.
Roll call.
Mr. Gendron? Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Next, we go to convention conference requests. Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could request a suspension of the rules to introduce a third trip to be considered in total with the other two. I believe all the members have this trip that it did come in a little late, but we certainly don't want to hold anyone up. So a suspension of the rules that can add one additional request from Generation Citizen to the other two requests that were previously published.
Okay, Ms. Martin has requested a suspension of the rules in order to include a third trip. Seconded by Mr. Hoey. It'll be by general consent if there is no objection. Hearing none, the rules are suspended to include the third trip. Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, just a very brief clarification that Mr. Martin he wanted to be here, but he has a personal emergency he's attending to, and he just wanted you to have the clarification that one of the reasons that it was late is because they're invited to the White House and they had to wait for the clearance. And the clearance just came after we sent you the packet.
Okay, so the chair would entertain a motion to approve all 3 requests for comments by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Ms. Martin. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Gendron? Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
If there's nothing further, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Hoey? All in favor, all opposed? Stand adjourned.
Janine, the improbable players, has there been any conversation to like possibly having them perform at the high school and having all of the kids kind of see them all at once? Or is that like a nightmare?
They're getting